I didn't come to St. Vincent's looking for answers. I came because I needed a paycheck, and it was the only place hiring overnight within 50 miles of my cousin's trailer. That was how far I'd run after the accident. Just far enough for people to stop looking at me like I might shatter in front of them. St. Vincent Memorial Hospital sits on the edge of a town so small it doesn't show up on half the maps I checked. The kind of place that never really made it out of the early 2000s. You know the type. One main road, 2 gas stations, a liquor store that probably shouldn't still be open, and a hospital that looks like it's waiting to die. 3 wings were sealed off when I got there. The maternity ward hadn't seen a live birth since 2003, and I swear the whole place still smelled like antiseptic and ghosts. I was assigned to nights right away. No orientation, no small talk. Just a short email that said, "Report to night shift nurse station by 6:45 p.m. I showed up a few minutes early in my scrubs, holding a coffee I barely tasted, and hoping nobody would ask too many questions about where I came from, or why I had that look in my eyes like I was trying not to breathe too deep. The break room was tucked between the nurse's station and a dim hallway lined with supply closets. The lights buzzed like they were tired of trying. That's where I met Rosie. She was already there, perched in the corner of the break room like she'd been growing from the plastic chair itself. Early 60s, steel-cropped white hair, skin the color of cigarette ash, and a voice that scratched like static on an old radio. She didn't say hello. She didn't even look at me when I walked in. Just reached into the pocket of her jacket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slid it across the table. "Read it," she said. "Then burn it." That was it. That was the introduction. I hesitated for a second, half wondering if this was some kind of test, but something about her tone told me this was real. So I sat down, set my coffee aside, and unfolded the paper. The handwriting was sharp and impatient, like every word was written while glancing over a shoulder. The rules of St. Vincent's Night Ward. 1. Room 310 must be checked at exactly 12:17 a.m. If the bed is empty, shut the door and do not return until morning. If she's in the bed, do not speak to her. Log her as stable and walk away. 2. If the medicine cart rolls on its own between 1 and 1:10 a.m., do not try to stop it. Let it finish its route. If it halts at a door, knock once. If there's no answer, keep walking. 3. If you hear crying from the old maternity wing, ignore it. Do not follow the sound. Do not open any doors on that floor after 2 a.m., especially not room 212. 4. If you see a little boy in green pajamas sitting in the hallway outside pediatrics, sit with him. Ask how his day was. Stay until he vanishes on his own. 5. If a heart monitor begins flatlining but no one is assigned to that bed, cover the screen with the blue cloth in the bottom drawer. Wait exactly 1 minute before removing it. Do not speak his name. 6. Avoid using the staff elevator between 2 and 2:30 a.m. If the door's open and someone is already inside, wait for the next one, even if they call you by name. I read it twice. Then I looked up. Rosie had opened the narrow break room window, lit a cigarette, and was staring out into the parking lot like it might do something interesting. "I'm sorry," I started. "They'll make sense when they need to." She cut me off without turning around. "Don't ask questions and don't try to be brave. You do your job, follow the list, and this place might just let you leave in the morning." That last part stuck with me. Might. She didn't say would. I looked back down at the rules. The paper felt heavy in my hands. It wasn't fear exactly, not yet. It was more like the air had changed, like something had leaned in close enough to listen. I folded the note again, tucked it into my pocket, and thought I'd hold on to it and burn it later. The first 2 nights passed in that strange, dead quiet only hospitals know. That quiet that presses down on your shoulders and makes your footsteps sound louder than they are. Rosie barely spoke unless she had to. I spent my rounds learning the layout, figuring out which beds still had patients, and trying not to let the humming lights or the old creaks of the building get to me. I kept the rules in my pocket. Every night, I hadn't needed them yet. Until night 3. That shift, the air felt different from the start. Heavier. The kind of heavy that settles in your lungs and makes it hard to breathe deep. I noticed it just before midnight when I was logging vitals in the East Wing. I chalked it up to too much coffee and not enough real food. But then I passed the nurse's station, and the wall clock said 12:17 a.m. exactly. It was almost like someone had grabbed the back of my neck and turned me toward it. Just that second of locking eyes with the time, and my stomach flipped. My brain took a second to catch up, but when it did, I remembered the rule. Room 310. If the bed is empty, shut the door and don't come back. If she's in the bed, don't speak. Log her as stable and leave. My fingers curled around the edge of the counter like I was trying to anchor myself. I didn't want to go, but something about the rule made it feel like not going would be worse. Room 310 was at the far end of the north wing. The hallway that always smelled like bleach and floor wax, no matter how many nights I walked it. The fluorescents above flickered like they couldn't make up their minds, and one of them buzzed loud enough to drill into my teeth. Clipboard in hand, I made the walk. My shoes squeaked once, and I actually flinched. When I reached the door to 310, I stopped. Pressed my hand against the cold metal. My pulse had gone weird, fluttery, fast. I kept telling myself it would be fine, that it was just a regular room, and I was being stupid. I pushed the door open slowly. She was already there. Lying in the bed, pale face turned toward the ceiling, blankets folded neatly at her chest, hair gray and wispy against the pillow. Her hands were tucked in like she hadn't moved in hours. I didn't recognize her. I didn't even remember anyone being admitted to 310. But she was there, breathing so faintly that I had to watch her chest for a full 10 seconds just to be sure. She looked peaceful. Peaceful enough that for 1 second I wondered if she was peaceful. Like, for good. But then I saw the heart monitor at her side. Slow, steady rhythm. I marked the chart. Stable. No name. No vitals logged previously. Just there. I turned to leave, not looking at her face again, and that's when I heard it. A breath. Too deliberate to be sleep. Just one long inhale through the nose. Then a whisper of motion. I didn't turn around. Every cell in my body screamed at me not to. My fingers curled so tight around the clipboard that the plastic edge dug into my palm. Behind me, the sheets shifted. She opened her eyes. I didn't see it. I felt it, like when someone's staring straight through the back of your skull. I kept walking, out the door, down the hall. Steady, even steps, no running. I didn't stop until I was back at the break room, chest tight, hand shaking as I reached into my pocket for the note. I felt like I have to burn it, like it had this bad omen and I was just carrying it with me. I didn't even realize I was holding the lighter Rosie had given me until I heard the click. She was already sitting by the window, smoking her usual. She didn't look at me, just held out the lighter without a word. I lit the edge of the paper, just enough for the corner to blacken and curl. "Burn it," she said. "I'm not ready," I said back, without meaning to. Her eyes flicked to mine, just for a second, then she nodded, and let me keep the rest. There's this rhythm hospitals fall into after midnight. Vitals done. Call lights go quiet. The building settles, and for a while, it almost feels like any other job. That lull tricks you. Makes you think maybe the weird rules are just stories, leftover rituals from tired night staff trying to make sense of a haunted building. That night, I almost let myself believe it. I was finishing a refill run, stocking gloves, alcohol wipes, saline flushes. Normal stuff. The medroom door had jammed on me earlier, so I was behind schedule by a few minutes. When I glanced at my watch and saw it was already 1:06 a.m., I stopped right there in the hallway. Because I heard it. The wheels. Slow and deliberate. Just enough squeak to be unnatural. Just enough rhythm to suggest someone was pushing it. Only, there wasn't. I turned my head and saw the medicine cart rounding the far corner, near the west hallway. No one behind it. Just gliding forward like it knew where it was going. I don't know how long I stood there watching. My brain sort of jammed for a second, like my eyes were seeing something my logic refused to accept. Then I remembered Rule 2. If the medicine cart rolls on its own between 1 and 1:10 a.m., do not try to stop it. Let it finish its route. If it halts at a door, knock once. If there's no answer, keep walking. It kept going. Smooth and steady, like it was on tracks. The hallway felt colder than before. I moved without meaning to, following from a safe distance. I didn't want to get too close, but I also didn't want to lose sight of it. Maybe I was scared it would turn around. The cart turned the final corner and stopped dead in front of room 308. It didn't jerk or bounce, it just stopped. Like it had found exactly what it was looking for. I hesitated. There was no one assigned to 308. The room had been empty since I started. I checked the clipboard even though I already knew. Still empty. I approached carefully. My footsteps felt muffled, like the air itself was trying to muffle the sound. I raised my hand, knocked once, just once. The sound echoed too loud. I waited. Nothing. No voice, no movement. Just the soft hum of the hallway lights and the steady whir of the wall vent behind me. I started to turn, but my body betrayed me. I looked back. Just for a second. The cart hadn't moved, but someone was standing next to it now. A man. Mid-40s maybe. Pale, like he hadn't seen sunlight in years. His scrubs were soaked in dark red, too much for one patient. Blood all down the front, like he'd been caught in a splash. His face was sharp, tight, hollow around the eyes, and he was smiling. Not friendly, not warm. Just knowing, like he recognized me. I turned away and walked, fast, didn't run, didn't scream. Just walked as fast as I could without drawing attention. I didn't breathe again until I passed the east stairwell and heard the elevator ding on another floor. Back in the break room, I stood by the sink for a solid 5 minutes before I trusted my legs enough to move. Rosie was in her usual spot. She slid a mug across the table. Coffee. Stale, lukewarm, definitely older than tonight, but I drank it anyway. She didn't ask what happened. She never did. But as I reached for the cup, I saw the note again, half burned, the rules still visible on the back of my clipboard. And I realized something. This place didn't want me to forget. It wanted me to remember. The third rule was the one I kept pretending wouldn't happen. I don't know why, but something about it always unsettled me more than the others. Maybe it was the way it was worded. Not just don't go in, but especially not room 212. That kind of wording only comes from people who learned the hard way. The maternity wing had been shut down for years. The door was sealed with a thick rusted chain and a padlock that looked older than I was. No one ever mentioned it. I'd walked past it during supply runs, during rounds. It always gave off a kind of cold that didn't match the rest of the floor. The kind that sinks into your skin before you even realize it. It was around 2:12 a.m. when it started. I was in the East Hall, halfway through a vitals check. Nothing out of the ordinary, just the usual beep of monitors and the sound of someone snoring behind a curtain. I remember clicking a pen and thinking I'd be off shift in 4 hours, which felt survivable. Then I heard it. Faint at first, almost like static, then sharper, crying. High-pitched, wavering, like an infant. It was distant, but clear. My body froze before my brain did, like my bones already knew what it was. I turned toward the direction of the sound. Instinct, stupid and immediate. And that's when I saw the maternity wing doors. The chain was still wrapped around the handles, padlock in place, but I could hear the crying right behind it. Soft, but insistent. Like whoever, or whatever, was on the other side was waiting for me to listen. The worst part was, it didn't sound scary at first. It sounded real, like a newborn who just realized no one was coming. I took a step forward. Just one. "Don't you even think about it," Rosie said from behind me. I turned and found her standing 6 feet away, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. She didn't look mad. She looked tired. Tired in that deep, soul-sick kind of way. Her eyes didn't leave mine. "You open that door, she'll never stop screaming." I believed her. Not because of how she said it, but because of what she didn't say. There was something final in her voice. Something that made me feel like that door didn't lead to a wing anymore. Just a sound that needed a body. I backed away. I don't remember walking back to the station. I don't remember setting down my clipboard or the way my hands shook when I tried to type vitals into the computer. All I remember is the crying. It didn't stop for 20 minutes. Then silence, like someone turned off a radio. Later that night, I sat next to Rosie in the break room. I didn't even try to sleep on the cot. I couldn't. "Who is it?" I asked. She was staring out the same tiny window as always. Lit cigarette in one hand, the other wrapped around a mug I'd never seen her actually drink from. "Some grief," she said slowly. "Doesn't know how to die." That was all she said. But the way her eyes stayed locked on the glass made me wonder if she'd been the one to open the door once. And maybe never really came back from it. Most of the rules at St. Vincent's feel like warnings. Do this or else. Don't look, don't speak, don't move. They're all about keeping your head down and surviving whatever the building throws at you. But Rule 4 felt different. If you see a little boy in green pajamas sitting in the hallway outside pediatrics, sit with him. Ask how his day was. Stay until he vanishes on his own. That was it. No threats, no tricks. Just sit with him. It almost felt kind, which somehow made it worse. I met him on a Tuesday. I was coming back from the supply closet with a box of gloves tucked under one arm. It was 3:07 a.m. I know because I'd checked the wall clock outside the PEDS unit, wondering how many more hours I had to keep my brain upright. And then I saw him, curled up on the linoleum floor right outside the double doors, legs tucked in, arms wrapped around his knees. No shoes, green pajama bottoms patterned with little rocket ships, a matching long-sleeved top. He couldn't have been older than 6. Thin, pale, like he hadn't seen sunlight in a long time. I froze halfway down the hallway. He looked up before I could say anything. Big brown eyes. Wide, too still. "I don't feel good," he said. My fingers loosened on the box and it hit the floor with a dull thud. I didn't pick it up. Instead, I walked toward him, slow, careful, like approaching a deer that might spook. He didn't move, just kept looking at me. I lowered myself to the floor beside him, knees stiff and cold from the tile. The hallway lights buzzed overhead. "Hi," I said quietly. "I'm Jasmine." He nodded. "My tummy hurts." "Yeah," I said, voice thin. "I get that." There was a long silence, not uncomfortable exactly, just fragile, like even breathing too hard might shatter the moment. Then he started talking. He told me about his favorite cartoons, something with a dog and a detective. He said his mom always let him stay up late when he was sick, as long as he promised not to tell Dad. He said he lost his stuffed elephant, that he thought maybe someone took it. "She was in my room," he said softly. "The lady with the long hands. She touched my bed." My throat went tight. I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't want to know. Instead, I asked him about his favorite color, his favorite cereal, his best friend at school. Anything to keep him talking. Anything to keep us both grounded. He smiled once, just once. A quick flicker of something real. Then he looked up at me, eyes suddenly older than they had any right to be. "You think she forgot?" It hit me like a punch to the chest. I knew what he meant. He didn't have to say her name. He meant his mom, the one who promised she'd come back, the one who probably never got the chance. I opened my mouth to say no, but I couldn't lie. "I don't know," I said. He didn't look upset, didn't cry, he just leaned his head against my arm for a second. Then he was gone, like a breath fading in cold air. I sat there a long time after, not crying, not moving, just trying to remember the sound of his voice. When I finally stood, I looked down the hallway and saw Rosie standing at the end, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. She didn't say anything, she just gave a short nod. And I realized something I hadn't before. Some rules weren't about staying safe. Some were about making sure they weren't alone. There's a moment every shift where you stop looking at the clock because you're scared of how much time is left. For me, that moment always came around 4 a.m., when the halls were too quiet and the lights above the nurses' stations started humming like they were thinking about giving up. 2 weeks in, I stopped pretending I didn't believe the rules. By then, I'd seen enough to understand that belief had nothing to do with it. St. Vincent's didn't care if I believed. The rules weren't written for comfort, they were survival instructions. Barely enough, but just enough. That night, I was charting. Rosie had gone to lie down on the cot for a few minutes, not to sleep, just to rest her eyes. That's what she always said. I had my clipboard balanced on one knee, pen in hand, eyes half closed. I was thinking about breakfast, about maybe getting a biscuit from that awful diner down the road. And then a monitor screamed. Not just a beep. The long, steady shriek of a flatline. It was bed 7, room 217. I blinked, confused at first. We hadn't used that bed in days. I double-checked the list, still unassigned. No patient. But the EKG was lit up, full screen, showing a flatline so straight and crisp it could have been drawn with a ruler. I didn't hesitate. I didn't need to double-check the rule. If a heart monitor begins flatlining but no one is assigned to that bed, cover the screen with the blue cloth in the bottom drawer. Wait exactly 1 minute before removing it. Do not speak his name. I went to the drawer. The cloth was where it always was, folded tight, soft but heavy in my hands like it had been soaked in something that never quite washed out. I moved quickly, no wasted motion, covered the screen, counted in my head. The sound didn't stop right away. It kept going, cutting through the silence like a knife against glass. The screen started to shake behind the cloth, not violently, just a soft shudder, like something was trapped underneath. I kept counting. 58, 59, 60. I peeled the cloth back. The screen was black. No flatline, no heart rate, just blank. On the counter beside it, a layer of dust had settled, thin, powdery, untouched, except for 2 words. Thank you. Written in a fingertip drag. Small and neat. I didn't clean it. I just backed away. I didn't tell Rosie. I didn't need to. I think she already knew. That was the beginning of the end. It was a Thursday when Rosie left, just before my shift. She met me outside the break room, her hair pinned up, jacket slung over one shoulder. I'm done, she said. 34 years is enough. I didn't know what to say. I think I just stared. That night, I was alone for the first time. The hospital felt different without her. Bigger, quieter. I was coming back from the supply closet a little after 2 a.m. when the elevator dinged. I froze. The doors slid open. A woman stood inside. Blonde hair, scrubs, familiar face, too familiar. She looked like my sister, but that was impossible. My sister died in the crash. I knew that. I'd been driving. I remembered the sound of metal and screaming and, "Hey," she said. "You coming, Jas?" Her voice was warm, gentle. Everything I'd wanted to hear back then, but her eyes didn't match. They were too wide, too still. I took a step back. She tilted her head. "Jasmine." The voice changed just enough. I turned away. Didn't answer. Didn't run. Just walked to the stairwell with every muscle in my body tensed. At the top of the stairs, Rosie was waiting. She wasn't really there, I knew that. But her shape, her nod, the way she always stood like she carried every ghost in this place with her, it was enough. I got through the shift. I always do. It's been 4 months now. Rosie's gone. The break room smells like coffee and dust. I still take my shifts like clockwork. Some nights are worse than others. Some nights nothing happens at all. Those are the hardest. Because they make me wonder if it's over, if I imagined all of it. But then the medicine cart rolls by, or the crying starts from behind that locked door, or I see the boy in green pajamas sitting alone in the hallway. And I remember, we're not alone here. We never were.